In the years before the Federation, the Vulcans were one of the most powerful peoples in their neck of the Alpha Quadrant, possessing advanced technology and centuries of experience of interstellar travel. In the 22nd century, Vulcan starships were considerably more advanced than any Earth equivalent, and a fine example of this was the Suurok-class Starship. This large vessel, which could serve as either a science vessel or combat cruiser, was one of the most common Vulcan starships, and an iconic symbol of the Vulcan High Command. In this video, we'll be taking a closer look at this remarkable ship, one of the most recognisable Vulcan vessels. Welcome to Trek Central, I'm your host, Captain Jack. If you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. We're enjoying making these Star Trek videos, and we hope you're enjoying watching them. If you want to support their development, check out our Patreon via the link below. Any support is greatly appreciated. And a big thank you to those who've already supported us. As always, please let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, because if you're talking about Star Trek, then we want to hear about it. Okay? Engage. The Suurok-class Starship was designed by and for the Vulcan High Command, which deployed them for long-range scientific missions and as a mid-sized cruiser in combat. The Suurok-class was developed and introduced sometime in the early 22nd century. By the latest, it was at least in service by 2136. The Suurok-class came in two different configurations, one designed as a scientific vessel and the other as a combat cruiser. There were some structural differences between the two variants, but we'll be discussing both of them in this video anyway. The Suurok-class was larger and more advanced than any other human vessel, even the Enterprise NX-01, possessing an advanced annular warp drive and tractor-beam technology that were far beyond humanity's understanding at the time. The ship was 350 meters in length, and its design was simple and elegant, with distinctly Vulcan aesthetics such as copper or red-coloured hull plating and an annular warp drive. The main hull of the Suurok-class was needle-like, tapering to points at the forward and aft ends. This section was rounded on top but flatter on the bottom. Just after the ship's midpoint, a thick, arrowhead-shaped module protruded from the ship's ventral hull, connecting the Suurok-class's main hull to its warp ring. This warp ring encircled the ship's main hull section, and unlike the warp ring of the larger Decatur-class cruiser, it was fixed in place. By the mid-22nd century, the Suurok-class Starship was one of the fastest starship classes in the Vulcan fleet. During sublight travel, it was propelled by a pair of huge impulse engines, located on the upper aft face of the Starship's ventral tower. Even at sublight speeds, the Suurok-class was faster and more maneuverable than most ships of its size, giving an edge in combat. Of course, the Suurok was also equipped with a warp drive, a key part of which was the ship's large, annular warp ring. This ring served the same function as human warp drives' warp nacelles, storing the ship's warp coils, but its design was more advanced and efficient. The warp drive of a Suurok-class Starship was powerful, although its exact strength differed depending on the subclass. Science vessels of this class had a top speed of warp 6.5, while combat cruisers could reach warp 7. In either case, this was significantly faster than contemporary human vessels, which the fastest could only reach warp 5 at a push. The exact crew complement of a Suurok-class Starship is unknown, as is most of its interior layout. The ship's crew quarters were located within the ship's ventral tower, which was lined with large windows on its forward end. Most of the ship's decks were located within the main hull of the ship, including the Suurok-class's bridge. The bridge was triangular, accessed by a turbolift at the back of the room. It contained multiple crew stations, a forward view screen, and the captain's chair. The interior configuration of the Suurok-class likely differed between the science and combat variants of the Starship. Below the Suurok-class's impulse drives was a small shuttle bay, which featured an aft-facing set of hangar doors. This shuttle bay's exact complement is unknown. Unlike Earth vessels, the Suurok-class Starship was equipped with deflector shields and a tractor beam, both of which were considerably classified technologies by Vulcan High Command. The ship's tractor beam projector was located on the underside of the main hull, just forward of the ventral tower, and it was capable of an impressive precision. The Suurok-class Starship was also pretty well armed, although its armaments may well differ between the two variants of the ship. The combat variant, at least, boasted multiple particle beam emitters, which lined the inner surface of the ship's warp ring, as well as photonic torpedoes, allowing it to deal a considerable amount of damage in combat. The exact complement of the Suurok-class is unknown, but these vessels were at least powerful enough to take on 3 Mazarite warships at once and win. The Suurok-class Starship was the Vulcan High Command's most commonly used starship, the backbone of the Vulcan fleet. Ships of his class led the Vulcan's exploration and research initiatives, going on science missions deep into space, and they also served as a Vulcan's primary cruiser class. Capital ships of his class weren't as powerful as the fearsome Decay-class Starship, but they tended to dish out more punishment than ever received. By the way, if you want to see a complete video on the Decay-class Starship, check it out here on the Trek Central YouTube channel, a link's down below in the video description. In the early 2150s, the crew of the Enterprise NX-1 had a number of encounters with Suurok-class starships. One, the Navarre, was sent to pick up T'Pol for reassignment in 2151, while another, the Timur, was sent to relay personal messages to T'Pol that same year. The Timur later used its tractor beam to retrieve one of Enterprise's shuttle pods from a crevasse on a comet that it crashed into. In 2152, the Suurok-class cruiser Charon escorted Enterprise on a diplomatic mission, fending off a trio of Mazarite warships as they attempted to destroy the ship. Suurok-class cruisers were later deployed by the Vulcans to hunt down the Romulan drone ship during the Babel Crisis, and also saw use during the Earth-Romulan War. The Suurok cruisers fought on Earth's side. Earth and its allies were ultimately victorious in that war, and the victory led directly to the formation of the United Federation of Planets. After the formation of the Federation, use of the Suurok class declined, as newer and more advanced Starfleet vessels took over territorial defense and scientific missions for Federation members. However, a few ships of the class remained in service well into the late 24th century, by which point they were mostly relegated to diplomatic missions and often escorted by newer Starfleet vessels. The Suurok-class Starship was designed by senior illustrator Doug Drexler for Star Trek Enterprise. Drexler based on some of the original design sketches Matt Jeffries had done for the original series of the USS Enterprise. Believing that simplicity and clear shapes of Jeffries' designs were what made the original series ship so iconic and memorable. Drexler wanted the Vulcan ship to be similar and recognisable at any scale, and he took significant inspirations from Jeffries' early work to get it that way. Drexler considered a few directions for the Suurok class before settling on a version that ultimately made it to the screen. One design resembled the T'Plana Half from First Contact, with 3 bulky rotating drive modules suspended on arms from a central, needle-like body. Another featured 3 blocky warp nacelles ringing a central hull, which featured a spherical, Jeffries-inspired crew module at the front. The finished design was based on another Jeffries concept, which depicted the Enterprise as a needle-like ship within a set of enormous rings. All 3 concept designs were smooth-hulled and bright red in colour, matching the T'Plana Half, and featured distinctive curves and peaks, like the Vulcan Temple from Star Trek III, establishing a consistent Vulcan design language. The first draft of what would become the finished design of the Suurok class was very similar to the finished model, except it was upside down. The ventral tower on the finished Suurok class was instead a dorsal tower. Drexler experimented with adding T'Plana Half style engine pods around the ship's warp ring, but decided to remove them shortly after he decided to have the ship's tower on the bottom instead of the top. This was done to make it so that from certain angles, the warp ring looked like it wasn't connected to the main hull at all. The goal of this was to make the Vulcan ship seem as if it defied the laws of physics, as it fit a species that, at the time of Enterprise, had technology that was far beyond human understanding. Drexler's design was built out into a CGI model, and made its screen debut in Episode 8 of Enterprise's first season, Breaking the Ice. The original model of a Suurok-class Starship was low to medium quality, as the script for Breaking Ice didn't require any close-up shots. This made the model hard to use in future episodes, however, so a higher quality CGI version of the ship was built for future appearances. This new model was built by Eden FX's Pierre Droulat and made some changes to Drexler's original design. The hull colour was changed from red to copper, the dimensions of the ship were tweaked, and some detailing of the ventral tower was altered and additional details were added across the ship, including the impulse engines and the shuttle bay. The new design was likely intended to just be a retcon of the original, not a different ship. However, some sources have established that the original model represents the science configuration of the Suurok class, while Droulat's redesign represents the ship in a combat configuration. What do you think of this? So that's a look at the Suurok-class Starship in the Star Trek universe, the Vulcan's main capital ship in the years before the Federation. If you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. Don't forget, you can also support us on Patreon via the link below. For now, I've been Captain Jack, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends. Goodbye.